So like all other days, we'll just be taking questions, of course, from the audience. We also have a few interesting people who've joining us from the US and other parts of the world. So, we'll keep going back and forth. And I wanted to start actually today's session with an excerpt from the Heartfulness Way, where, Daaji speaks about the purpose of meditation. And I'm just going to read a short excerpt from it because I thought it would be a good way to start the session. So here it goes. From selfishness towards selflessness, from the reactive mind to the responsive heart, from imprisonment in the folds of ego to freedom from ego, from the here and now to eternal, timeless existence, from worshipping forms to formlessness, from contraction to expansion, from restlessness to peacefulness, from the superficial to the authentic, from insistence to acceptance, from imbalance to balance, from darkness to light, from heaviness to lightness, from grossness to subtlety, from the periphery to the core of the being, the source, the higher self. You see, the purpose of meditation is to transform us. Transformation is the purpose of religion too. It is also the purpose of self help and psychiatry. Yet, whenever we try to change ourselves in any way, we tend to encounter tremendous forces of inertia that prevent us from achieving our goals. And he further goes on to say that through meditation, we go within and connect with something higher. Therefore, we can find it wherever we are. We need not make pilgrimages. We need not change our dress, our habits, or our names. We need not do anything except close our eyes and sit quietly in meditation. That is how we gain practical spiritual experience. So I just thought of reading this to set the context for today, and maybe we can just pause for about 30 seconds to assimilate what I just read, because a number of our conversations have been around this. Pranam, Daaji.
Pranams everyone.
How are you doing? Good evening. I know that you've had already a very long day with the Heartfulness essay competition winners this morning. I was watching it, and I think a number of us were joined in. So it was really, really nicely done. And it was good to hear all the dignitaries.
Yes, it's not the essay, it's the time and pressure you have when dignitaries come. So
that's true.
That takes a lot of energy and attention.
I agree. And there's also a lot of pressure on the team, but it went off really well. So congratulations to everyone.
Yes. The team did a wonderful job in spreading this essay competition. And this year's topic was on kindness, how kindness can change your own life. So we are continuing with the same theme this year, as well as we'll add something more to it. But kindness will also be a project of this year, not just writing, but what do we do? How can we express our heart through the acts of kindness? And I also recommend youngsters and elders also, if they have some ideas of how we can change the society at large with new inventions. Youngsters, they have super brain these days, and they have so many ideas of how to improve the existing, for example, a fan or existing air conditioner or existing mosquito motel or a roach motel, or how to increase the crop or the fruit size or the flower size and all these things, how it directly can affect our day-to-day life. So we are looking for some ideas and projects, and the winner of such ideas and projects will have very hefty prize, I would say, in 4-digit in dollars at least. And as a competition this year was very special because UNESCO and United Nations have joined hands with Heartfulness, which is good, which is very good. So anyway, so this is one part of our initiative.
Yes,
That,
Daaji.
thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to just introduce a few interesting people who've joined us from the US. There is the US Ohio Senator Neeraj Jantani, who's joined us. He's a very young Indian senator and an avid supporter of Heartfulness and participated in very many events. So Neeraj, please go ahead and ask your question, and thank you for joining us. It seems that I think Neeraj hasn't not been able to join us yet, but I also would like to introduce Libby, who's from Brightside Music. And, Libby has played a very instrumental role in increasing the reach of Heartfulness in the US by, putting it in media and different forms of media. So, Libby, I believe you have a very interesting question for us. So I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on. My question is just that I find that I'm pulled in a lot of different directions, doing a lot of different things, helping people. But sometimes being so busy can cause a lack in my own heart. So I'm just wondering what method you would recommend to help fulfill that lack in the heart and be content.
Well, I think today we are in a very typical situation, very different from many generations before. I don't know if you have earlier seen the ad. It was by Squibb Bristol Laboratories in US, and they were manufacturing stress tabs. And each time they advertised the stress tabs, they portrayed it as if you are burning a candle on both ends and your life is also like that, take stress tabs. These days, I don't think we are burning on two ends. We are burning on all possible ends and creating so much of, I think, drain, like a phone battery. If you have many apps running on your phone, your battery will get discharged very fast. Like that, when our energies are moving, our attentions are in many directions and they consume you actually. That creates a lot of problems at the mental health, emotional health, and finally physical health. I will share a very small story with you, my little encounter I had during one of my visits with my master in Shahjahanpur. It was an interaction I cannot forget. It was with Babuji Maharaj. It was one fine winter morning, and he was seated very comfortably in one of his easy chairs, and I was diagonally across from him, at least 10 feet away. Though we were only two, I chose to stay very far so as not to disturb with my presence there. I was just seated, and he points at me and does ishara, means hints like this, come. So I get up and go towards him and I sit near his feet. And what he does was very remarkable. Since it was a winter morning, his skin was very dry. So with his nail, he drew a line on his upper palm and he asks me, you see, this is a water canal. I say, yes, Babuji. Then he drew another line from that line and he said, do you understand? I said, no, Babuji. Then he drew third line. He says, now there are 3 water lines and the power of water is reduced. Now do you understand? I say, yes, Babuji. So we have a very limited mental resources. We need to use them wisely. So we have to prioritize what is my priority at the moment. We should not do more than two things at a time. One thing is whatever we are doing in a daily work professionally or vocationally. But the most important thing I should be doing is keeping my heart connected with the fine spiritual condition that I have acquired after the morning meditation. That should become my primary act. And whatever I do professionally or vocationally is my secondary act. So while performing my inner contacts, while maintaining that inner context, I can perform all other activities. In the beginning, I know it will be difficult. But try it like this, learn from young children. And one beautiful example that comes to my mind is when we train our children how to use a bicycle. We don't give them bicycle immediately, we give them four-wheeler, two big ones and two small ones to support. And then on top of that, we also support them with our hands and we walk and they pedal. And time comes when we remove the supporting wheels, then they are on the three wheels, and then they are on two wheels. And then a time comes, they're able to ride a bicycle, going to school, going to meet their friends. When they're riding bicycle with their friends, they let go of their hands also and drive, singing. But the paddling is the main activity. They are not aware, but their mind, their subconscious mind is not aware of paddling. It becomes a secondary act, though it is primary. Singing with friends, talking to friends while bicycling, it becomes their main thing. So like that, we can maintain our inner poise, our centeredness, and continue doing, let's say if you have children in the house, attending to them, cooking in the house, or doing your professional or whatever vocation you may have. And you'll be able to see how your energies are well utilized at the time. Not more, not less, but exact amount of dose you are injecting in the form of energy. Because since you meditate, a pre-meditative mind can plan things better. Libby, you must have heard a term called premeditated murder, right? You see how well they plan? And we, with the help of God or with the help of the divine, we can even plan better than a murderer, right? We can plan our life in such a way that it becomes, really, really worthwhile. People should feel jealous. What a lovely life they are leading. There is no stress. What for? When the Almighty God is within our heart and we are experiencing it all the time, why must I drain my batteries?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lippy.
So, Daaji, the next question is actually just building off the excerpt that I had read from the Heartfulness Way about the purpose of meditation. And it talks about, you've repeatedly highlighted how the right attitude can be a key building block to our transformation. Could you please de-layer what this attitude is that we need to have and how do we develop it?
Repeat again.
Yes, Daji. So I actually, in the beginning part of the session, had read an excerpt where in the heartfulness way, you talk about the purpose of meditation. And so we have a question from the Instagram live, which basically says, what is the right way? What are the qualities that we need to develop for this right attitude while we are meditating and also in our practice?
Okay. Well, our master puts it very emphatically that we have two components to the practice. One is practice itself, and second is attitude. Attitude is all about 95% of your success. 5% is only towards the practice's success. Practice, no doubt, is very important because that helps us develop a right attitude. But having wrong attitude and practicing will bring you negative results. I was in pharmacy business and I learned after many mistakes that what matters, what makes a pharmacy, especially retail drugstores, very successful is the location. If you are at a drugstore right in front of the hospital, you can never fail in business unless you are so stupid. Because everybody can see here is where I can get my medicine, my prescriptions filled. Okay. So in business world, they say success of a business, at least in those days, nowadays it doesn't matter where you do your business because of the web and technology. There too, what is important is your address. How easy to remember your address is, your website address. If it is too complicated, people forget the name, they can't visit you. Similarly, in business world, the location, location, and location. Three things. In spiritual success also, to my mind, these three things are important. Attitude, attitude, and attitude. Okay. Now, what sort of attitude must I have? See, when I was practicing earlier and I started understanding the system better and better, I started implementing. Rather, it became very natural to me to anticipate morning meditation just when I'm about to go to sleep. Something you wait for. Something sort of a longing starts in your heart that as soon as I wake up, I need to meditate. So with that attitude, I go to sleep. That my Lord help me, prepare me during this sleep so that I can meditate better in the morning. Then comes the idea to my mind that if you don't have passion, the interest, some sort of craze for spiritual success, it becomes a very dry practice. Imagine relationship, husband and wife. Dry relationship means there is no emotion in between. There is no love that is driving in the relationship. What becomes of that relationship? It's only habitual that you are existing together. But if love is there, ever increasing love, see, any relationship has to have ever increasing love, not decreasing or not maintaining. Oh, I love you the way I loved you before. No, that's not going to work. I love you more than when I met you first. But in most relationships, it's on a decline. You get used to it and we start to take things for granted. We need to add more and more fuel. You know, even physics or in thermodynamics, physical chemistry, they teach of entropy. That if you don't do anything, if you leave a system as it is, it will decline, it will disintegrate, it will become disorderly. One more example I like to share with you. When you have children and they have a lot of toys, you buy a lot of toys for them. You get clothes, you get nice storybooks. What happens eventually after 2-3 months or 6 months? If you don't invest your energy in fixing their rooms, organizing their room, someone has to do it. Either children will do it, or one of the parents will do it, or if you have a luxurious life, your maid will do it. But energy input is always required to maintain a system in order. Relationship also requires a lot of energy input. But we don't input energy. We put energy only in the beginning. You send so many roses and you write so many poems and love letters to your darling. You invest so much of energy in the beginning. If you have a date with your friend and you are going for a movie and the movie starts at 4 o'clock and a boy goes to the theater at 3 o'clock and girl comes at 4 or 5, his world will end. He says, my God, will she come? You know, the heart starts stopping. It gets to an extent that that fellow will collapse in front of the theater. Now, do we have that sort of love? Do we have that sort of incredible longing for God realization? I mean, we may not have, most of us don't have, but if we can develop, if we can cultivate this eventually, then the realization can become just like that. See? It's very easy then. I also like to share with you another story, which is all about attitude. It has nothing to do with meditation, but here it's all about attitude. For example, in India, a lot of rituals they perform and they believe in astrology a lot. Meaning what time of the day or night you were born, which place you were born, what was the position of the planets or the stars, the place where you were born, all this they calculate and then they say, okay, your future life will be like this. Then I was also wondering at phenomena that will it also impact where you had the conception? What is more important, the place of birth or the place of conception? Well, and when I was discussing all this thing with my master and I was pouring my heart and said, Master, we come from United States. If we conceive children elsewhere in the West versus conceiving the children in India, because people think, oh, India is a holy place. People of Islam background, they'll think Mecca is a holy place. People, Judaism and Christianity, they'll think Jerusalem is the holiest place on planet. So if you can conceive a child there, maybe a great noble soul like Jesus Christ can take a birth in my family. Okay. So I was putting these questions in front of him. So he said, no, none of these things. Astrology, of course, it works to a certain extent, but not fully. The place of birth plays a role because it has environmental impact on the upbringing of a child. But the most important thing is that attitude of parents at the moment of conception. What sort of attitude one has at the moment of conception determines the quality of the soul. But the moment of conception is such, no one is in the real sense. They're not aware of that fragrance of divinity or fragrance of spirituality at that moment. They forget the whole thing. In fact, they forget God and say, for God, please don't come at this time. Don't spoil my lovemaking. So some people even turn the photographs of gods and goddesses of Jesus Christ and they say, let me hide the statue of Lord Jesus. Now I'm ready for making love. And they put God aside and as if God is not watching you and do all kinds of rubbish things, wrong things, you see. How can you attract noble soul in that scenario? So attitude is very, very important, at least with such crucial things. That if you become prayerful, and can I become prayerful at the very last moment? I doubt it. See. That training has to be there, and it is our responsibility. Okay, I don't want to teach my child how to go about having conception. It's too young for all that. But surely I can create a sort of reverence, sort of holy feeling in their hearts in all that they do. If they are studying, let them create that feeling of reverence towards the teacher, towards the classmates, friendly feelings, kindness, compassionate heart flowing with love towards each other. This training begins very early in life. If it is not there in the beginning, then they will struggle later on in their adult life. But then we have to become examples. That when you sit for prayer, when you offer prayer just before taking meals, for example, or make it a habit of praying together before we all go to sleep. Even though they do not meditate, children, they don't meditate. It's okay, they're too young to meditate, but at least we can pray together. If you finish your meditation, it's okay. When a child wakes up, hold child's hand and offer a prayer together. Let's offer a prayer to God together. So it creates a habit. And they remain in touch with that, the feeling of sanctity, feeling of holiness, feeling of reverence will ooze in their heart automatically. So we can help children develop a certain level of attitude, and this attitude determines the quality of their life in the future. Not only theirs, but we also improve our quality of life. We find purpose in life after that. See? And as we move slowly and slowly in this direction, new and new things opens up in front of us. Today we say, okay, practice is important. I'm doing my practice. Later on, you'll say, okay, I'm doing it with a lot of love. Later on, you'll say, okay, I like to maintain the spiritual state that I have just acquired. Then the stage comes, I like to share with the world. But we don't have to make an effort in sharing these spiritual states. Like, rose flower, I like to share the example of rose. Does it willingly or consciously try to send out the fragrance to the environment? It doesn't. It just happens. That's its nature. The goodness of the heart, I don't have to pretend and artificially share it. It speaks for itself. So things unfold in our life in a very natural way. The root of it all, practice with the right attitude. Even when we say, I like to realize the ultimate, there too we have a lot of prejudice. We have attitude there. Hindus will say, oh, the ultimate is in the form of so-and-so God. Every religion has their own specialty, and we tunnel vision our views. That even when Lord Jesus, for example, was walking on this planet, how many could understand? When Krishna walked on this planet, how many could understand him in his original form? If we have to describe, even physically, the form of Lord Jesus Christ, can you describe it? Except the photographs and statues that we see, that he sacrificed his life, he lost his life on a cross. And when we see that painful moment, when we try to imagine or witness, what comes to our mind? The form doesn't come, but the feeling of terror emerges in the heart. So that moment of torture must have been so painful. Imagine a small nail pricking your finger. This one, multiple, not very sharp, but very blunt nails were put in his palms on both sides, on his legs, and very painful death. Of course, he resurrected. That's a different story. But despite of having such a greatness, despite of having such a great level of spiritual vibrations, people could not understand. How are we going to understand them now? Through images. We can't. But we can always think of those qualities, their greatness, what made them great. We don't want to become great. We want to imbibe those qualities. Whether we become great or not, that's a different story. But if you put the idea of greatness, you will be pursuing only for ego satisfaction. If he could sacrifice his life on a cross, we can do slightly little bit of it. We can suffer a bit for the comfort of others. Just a little bit. Little sacrifice, and so the act of kindness to the world. Today we had this great event actually, distributing prizes for the essay writers all across the globe and all the winners. And we released a book, which is a compilation of all these 40,000 essays, but we selected 40 best essays and we released them. And various speakers were talking about, and I could share with you the gist of it is that one speaker said when she was 3-year-old, her teacher would say, for 5 days, do 5 good things to your friends or with your relatives or with your neighbors or in your community, and write them down. And also share with the class how you feel about it. So she was mentioning that each day my heart became so joyous, happy, doing good things to my friends, sharing my stuff, being kind with them. And this had created a kind of a habit. And today she is one of the uh, famous film star actress in Tollywood, India. Another speaker from UNESCO, he said, we as human beings are hardwired to do good things. Kindness is not accidental, but kindness, if it bubbles in your heart, you have to become unnatural to stop the feelings of kindness sometimes. This is what has happened to human being. We are naturally hardwired to be kind because each time you perform a kind act, two great things happens in our neural circuit. Oxytocin is released and serotonin is released. Just as mothers were breastfeeding, nature rewards these mothers. Whenever they breastfeed, oxytocin is released. And this oxytocin hormone gives us so much of good feeling. It makes you so joyful. So each act of kindness, when you sacrifice something for someone, all these good hormones kicks in, and it also suppresses the hormones that will give you stress. So it's a win-win situation. And despite of this knowledge, despite of this scientific fact, which no one can change, we still don't make use of this free medicine. People like to take Lexapro, Zoloft, Prozac to become happier. But try this. Share your whatever little things you may have. Even listening to someone with kind heart, sympathetic heart, receptive heart is also an act of kindness. So it's all about attitude. Our human relationship is all about attitude. Our relationship with our Maker is also about attitude. Am I worshiping God because I'm afraid that He might send me to hell? Then you're on a wrong track. If you are tempted for heaven, then again you are on a wrong track. It is when I sacrifice something, when I do good things, my heart becomes joyful. It is when my heart becomes joyful that it becomes heaven in itself. Heaven descends in my heart when I do good things because I become joyful. Heaven means joy. There is no place. Can you identify a place where your soul will go and your body will be here? No. If you don't enjoy your heart now, you will not enjoy anything later, for sure. If not now, never. So, for heart to become more joyous, I think we need to do this. And that's why many religions, they say when you donate some money, when you become so generous and give food to someone, you'll go to heaven. Well, such things are put in such a way that the common person will be inclined to do this because now you have brought in the fear factor of God. And most people will end up doing it, but for wrong reasons. The real thing is very scientific. Your heart becomes very joyful when you perform the acts of kindness. And joyful heart is an abode of heaven, abode of God.
Thank you, Daji, for that. Very packed response with so much for us to peel and, of course, imbibe. And I think you've given us a tip that we can start practicing from today itself, which is, making acts of kindness as part of our routine. And, the world needs lots of it. So thank you so much for sharing that. The next question is from Dr. Mihika. She is a pediatric physiotherapist at the Hiranandani Hospital and has been practicing heartfulness for about 6 months. Please go ahead.
Pranam Daaji. I'm very new to the concept of heartfulness. So I would like to ask you that it is very difficult for me to understand how to behave in daily life. If someone is, I continuously keep thinking if someone is angry with me, or how do I talk to people? I'm too careful around everyone. So this fear of how to behave is in my mind all the time. So I would like to know how to take care of that. Thank you.
Pragya,
Ji, Daaji.
can you translate it for me?
Yes, absolutely, Daaji. She's saying,
That's right.
yes, no, she's just sharing, Daaji, that she is in an environment where she wants to behave and act in the right way, but she's always conscious that she might do something wrong. So, what is the tip that you can give her which can help her in acting in the right way in every situation, whether, so that she doesn't anger people around her or in any way throw things off?
Well, it will be like this until you master your profession. And, I'll share with you a very silly thing. When I went to United States and started practicing as a pharmacy intern to begin with, I didn't know, I was not even familiar with names of people. We are familiar with Ashok and we are familiar with Dave and Patel and Patil and all those. But when you hear all these names that you have never heard in your life, Francois or Jeffersons, and you don't even know how to spell that name. And when doctors write a prescription, they scribble it. It's very difficult to, understand the name. I can understand the medicine. I can guess that the first letter is this and it ends like this and this is the milligram and this is the dose. So from that I used to guess. But when it came to name, I had a hard time typing a prescription label with the direction to be given to the patients. See? And my pharmacists were quite mischievous with me. They wanted to teach me lessons. So one day they prepared a prescription on their own, as if doctor wrote it, and they asked me to type it down. They typed it, Buffalo Jefferson, right? And the address they put down was 701 or something, and Prostitute Avenue. And the medicine name was proper and the doctor's signature. And so he said, Mr. Patel, type this prescription directions. So I started typing and I typed Buffalo Patterson or Buffalo Jefferson and 701 Prostitute Avenue and all. I did that. I was so naive that no one can have a name starting with Buffalo and there is nothing like Prostitute Avenue. But I was so new to that country. So they had a big laugh, and I'm sure they still must be talking, that this boy from India came and we made fun of him. So when you don't know things, people will surely make fun of you. Not to that extent, but we're afraid to make any mistakes later on. So even in genuine mistakes, you will not be able to tolerate. After all, it's a medical profession. So. And whenever you're not very sure and you feel that you're making a mistake, consult your superiors. And there is no harm, but if you think you're making a mistake, always double check. There is no feeling, there should not be a feeling of inferiority in there, because you're going to catch up sooner or later. In a 2 years or 3 years, you'll catch up with your profession. And when you develop confidence, then you are the master of your profession. See? But if I tell you develop confidence in the beginning, it's not going to happen unless you master your profession. So it's good to be at the anxious level, worrisome level in the beginning, so that we don't make mistakes. It's okay. So you're passing through a temporary stage. Pass through it, and one day you'll become master. I think we should end the session now. What's the time?
Yes, Daaji, it's 9:13.
Okay. Is
Thank
there
you,
a
Daaji.
pressing question, or we can meditate?
No, Daaji, since you were talking about your experience as a pharmacist, we also have Jeff Johnson, who's a senior clinical pharmacist at the University of Alabama. So he's joined us. Jeff, if you'd like to ask your question, please go ahead.
Hello, Daaji. It's great to see you again. I send prayers and love from Alabama. I want to thank you again for your hospitality when I was in Hyderabad. My question actually, since that time, I've been doing work toward becoming a preceptor. And I feel a little bit of a guilt because what's happened to me as a result of my meditation has been so transformative that so much has happened, so much more than I have the faculty to explain. And so I don't really have a problem with the meditation. It's just an adventure, and it that's my curiosity for more and more and more. But I feel that I want to share with the world about heartfulness. And I just wonder what would be your idea of the natural progression of sharing aside from preceptorship. I'm working on that, and that's not been as fast as I'd like, but I want to speak to people about it, but I want to also feel that I know enough to speak. And my experiences have been a little more profound than even I can believe. And so I just wondered, from your days as an early practitioner through preceptorship, what you think the natural progression should be for a relative neophyte trying to share a good thing with other people without speaking out of school.
Thank you. Thank you, John. How to share. As I was sharing earlier, the fragrance of a rose, it just happens naturally. Rose doesn't make a will or a determination or even a thought that I'll be distributing this fragrance all around. It just happens naturally. When my heart is resonating or pulsating in love for God, I think it will automatically happen. When you are conversing with others, they will find peace and they'll ask you, Jeff, what happened to you? How come you're so peaceful? That gives you the chance to open up and share. So when you feel empathetic and you do something for someone, they get, they feel absolutely moved by what you do. So again, when they ask a question, how come you are so different? I think that's nothing very special. I'm just meditating. One thing we should not do is broadcasting, on a street with a loudspeaker that meet Babuji, the savior of the world. That will not be the right thing to do. See? But nobody comes to any spiritual or religious path by listening to loudspeakers. They come to a path when the heart is awakened and calls for his help. And then the right contacts are established and things happen naturally. So I would say, let it be a natural process. Your colleagues will ask you explain to them. Your family members, your friends will ask you, just explain to them very gently. I always offer experience to them. Look, I've been doing this. If you like to experience, try this out. And make it as a scientific experiment, the way we do pharmacy research, right? How do we do? There's a new drug, new molecule is there. And perchance if it has the quality to get rid of pain, the standard formulas of acetaminophen or ibuprofen efficacy is compared with the new molecule. If it is better than acetaminophen or ibuprofen, we can promote it. Okay, this is a new and better painkiller. But if it is less and more side effects, then I have to forget about the new molecule. So like that, we can offer various systems that, okay, you try as per your own desire. Whatever, you can Google and find out all kinds of methods and try one method for 2 days and see what happens. And then afterward, you give them this heartfulness way of meditation. Tell them do it for 2 days, but without transmission. And then tell them, look, now I'm a preceptor. I can give you a sitting and make you experience this transmission and see the difference of meditation. You have done all these meditations. You have also done heartfulness way of meditation. But now meditate heartfulness way with transmission. And you have a friend now, that's it. But the moment you give 1 or 2 sittings, no one can deny the effect of it. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. So let's all meditate now, Pragya.
Yes, Daaji.
Thank you. Please start meditation. That's all.
Thank you, Daji. Thank you so much. As I was meditating, I was just thinking about what you shared about kindness leading to a joyful heart, and that almost being a prerequisite for grace to descend on us, as you mentioned in the book. And, as you define grace, which is, a single downpour of grace can accomplish what 1,000 transmissions can never do. So thank you for sharing that with us, and that can help us progress. And I just wanted to really share immense gratitude for these times of togetherness with the heartfulness practitioners from around the world, especially in your presence. I think they've been very unique for me and very special. And I hope that these teachings and also these experiences remain cemented in our hearts, just like the heel mark on fresh concrete that you were sharing with us earlier, and continue to inspire us at all times. So thank you again, Daji, and I hope we all can join in next session, next weekend, which is especially for teachers. So please do register and stay safe and keep meditating. And thank you again, Daji. Have a lovely week ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.